My wife and I honeymooned in Hawaii, and we have been back 3 or 4 times since, and we go every 2 years or so. One of my favorite things in Hawaii, beside the fresh fish and so on, is the breakfast.
I'm Chef Todd Moore. My mission is empowering people to cook without recipes. They experience the freedom to cook what they want, how they want it, the confidence to take control and try new things, the health benefits of fresh, wholesome foods, and the family-strengthening bonds of dinner time together, as well as the money they save by eating well. Live without rules, cook without recipes. It's a no-recipe lifestyle.
They have a breakfast item in Hawaii that is called Loco Moco, and it is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and it is a breakfast powerhouse. So much so that I started making it for dinner. But what Loco Moco is a bed of rice with a hamburger patty on top of that, with a fried egg on top of that, grilled onions and beef gravy, and I'm going to show you how to make it today. But as always, it's going to be left up to your inspiration. If you don't want hamburger patty, try something else. And what we're going to do is start over at the stove by grilling some onions. Over to the stove, I've got my egg pan here because I'm going to cook the eggs in the same pan, but a little bit of water on my fingers. There we go, that's a hot pan. I'm going to take a little bit of butter. This isn't a little bit, but I'll leave a little bit of butter in the pan. Butter that pan a little bit, and I've got some sliced onions here. There we go, sliced onions. And we'll go ahead and put those nice long slices in the pan, and I want to caramelize these onions. I like them nice and crunchy and brown. And depending on the size of your pan and the heat of your stove and the size of the onion and all the other variables that go into place, after a certain amount of time your onions will look maybe like that. That's the way I like them, nice and caramelized. We're going to take them off, add those onions to the plate. Let's set them aside a little bit, and this is going to become the omelet pan for our eggs. In the meantime though, we are going to take some beef broth and we'll put this in a pan and get that to a nice soft simmer because we're going to need some gravy. What is the quickest way that I can thicken a liquid? To me, that's with a cornstarch slurry. So what I've got is some cornstarch here. I'll mix it with some of the beef broth, and when that comes to a slight simmer, add that cornstarch slurry and it'll thicken up. It's not the most flavorful gravy. It's not the greatest. I wouldn't do cornstarch slurry gravy on my turkey, but for a breakfast item, just to kind of wet down the rice, and I'll show you this in a minute, a cornstarch slurry, right, will work well. So just as my beef broth is about to come to a simmer, what I'm going to do is take, I don't know, a tablespoon or so of cornstarch. Go ahead and put that in a little ramekin, some of my cold beef broth that I have left over, and just dissolve this cornstarch in some of the beef broth. This is called a slurry, a cornstarch slurry. It's the quickest and easiest way to thicken some kind of liquid. All right, here comes my beef broth to a simmer. We're going to add just maybe half of this cornstarch slurry. Since I didn't measure, I can't know exactly how much it's going to take to thicken this broth. So we'll put half of it in, wait a minute, and see what happens here. When it starts to thicken up, don't forget about our nappe, where we dip a spoon in the sauce and run our finger through it. Well, that doesn't even stick to the spoon, so that's definitely not thick enough. So that was not enough slurry. We'll go ahead and add a little bit more of the slurry we made. Keep the heat under there, and now we start to see this thicken up into a gravy. Again, not the best way to make gravy, not gravy for your roast necessarily, but something that can certainly wet this dish should be fine. I'm going to dip my spoon in here again. I see it sticking to the spoon a little bit more, and when I run my finger across the spoon, it does not run back together. So now I have a nice thickened broth, and this can be beef broth out of the can, or like I said, save yourself a step and make a beef gravy, but make sure it's to nappe, that it's going to stick to our food. We'll set that aside. Here's our sausage patty just about ready to go, and I have also made a bowl of rice, and traditionally it's sushi rice that goes in this, but I've gone ahead and made regular white and wild rice. So now this pan that had onions in it and had sausage in it is a great flavored pan for go ahead and crack my fried egg in there. That's going to be the last element of our Loco Moco. And when I've got my egg about fried up, and that's all the elements of our Loco Moco. This is a loco kind of breakfast thing, and putting it together is pretty simple. Here's my sushi rice. We'll take a nice big scoop of the sushi rice in the middle of a bowl. This is, and because in Hawaii there are a lot of Polynesian people, a lot of Japanese people, Japanese breakfast is always with rice, and Americans could probably stand to take some advice from it. Rice and vegetables for breakfast, very popular in Japan, but here is my scoop of sushi rice. That's the first thing that'll go on there. We have my sausage patty will go on top of that. Fried egg on top of the sausage patty, grilled onions on top of that we grilled, and finally our quickie beef gravy that we put on there, and we'll just ladle that on top. And here is, like I said, a powerhouse breakfast. This is our Loco Moco. I've done this for dinner before because there's so much protein in it. But can you imagine starting your day with this? A sausage patty, egg, rice, onions. Boy, you'd be hopped up to get going no matter what you wanted to do. And if you were spending the day surfing, man, yeah, this would be a good way to do it, dude. Ride those curls, ride those waves, man. Got the Moco in me. It's all happening, man. Hang loose, you know? Great breakfast. It's not easy. This is certainly not something that you'll find at Starbucks, and you're not going to find it at a drive-through on your way to work. This is something that takes a concerted effort, but it's a great breakfast idea. It's a new breakfast idea. Hopefully it's something that I've introduced you to today that you've never heard of before. Loco Moco.